Hi, I'm Nano with the California Locos. You're watching the Red Booth Show. Stay tuned.
Hi, welcome to the Red Booth Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Q. On tonight's episode, I have Nano Nobrega, who's part of the California Locos and Dusters California. And he talks about their art show and amazing new merchandise and cool stuff, so come and join us. So, hello, Nano. How are you?
Good. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
So, Nano is a part of California Locos and also Dusters California.
Yes.
Which we get to talk about. It's very exciting. I actually went to your recent art show, and it was so amazing. I think it's, from what I hear, it's one of the biggest art shows that's happened in LA lately.
It got out of control. We weren't expecting to be that big. I mean, the line was going for blocks, and people were like, thank God you were there to get us in, because even the whole VIP list and whatnot, nothing was working.
Oh, no.
So for us, it was amazing to see that, but I'm sure for people that were trying to visit, it got a little chaotic. But once they were able to get in, everybody enjoyed, and we also had like sort of like an outside area, so people could just hang out. Now, in all the Eastern Project gallery, it's all glassed out, so you can see it from the outside as well. But eventually, everybody got in.
Yeah, they had those really cool lowrider cars that were outside. You had the whole display outside, and then the art gallery itself inside was amazing.
Yeah, that was Mr. Cartoon and Dave Touget. So Mr. Cartoon's got the low
purple
ride,
one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then Touget got the whole all like customized with California Locos artwork, Nova.
Right.
So you got the hot rod and the low ride, which right away kind of shows you that we're colliding sort of like different tribes into that thing, right?
Totally.
You got the hot rod, which is all, the rockabilly surf kind of style, and then, Mr. Cartoon with the whole kind of cholo gangsta style. I mean, you don't see that often, those tribes kind of, colliding, but...
And that's what was so amazing about the art show. I mean, that's the kind of, everybody that was there was such a, mixture of people from all these different backgrounds and cultures, and so...
It represents what the Locos are. I mean, they are a mix, even though the group started as, there's artists that were born and raised in Los Angeles. They all got their different backgrounds. And when you combine these things, it becomes a very powerful movement, And that's one of the things I'm very excited to talk to you about today, like where this movement is going to.
Well, cool. And also, I mean, you can tell how popular it is because of the attendance of this art show. It was kind of record-setting. How many people ended up coming to that?
Some people were saying over 3,000.
That's amazing.
I was very engaged with the whole event, so I couldn't really tell. I just saw people lining up, and then Juice Magazine was covering the event, so they put out an article later on. And I was looking at the pictures from the outside because I wasn't there. And the line, I mean, it was crazy. From the point that I got there at 5 p.m. to when I left, people were still lining up to see the show. It was amazing.
The art that's on the art show is kind of like urban art or street art, I guess you could say. How would you describe it?
Well, the Locos they're influenced by, skateboarding, surfing, punk. And that's the way that they united. That was started with Dave Touget. So I think it was back in 2011. I mean, he started like with his artwork back in 2001, 2011. He had the LA Aboriginals show. I think it was in Beverly Hills, and then they invited him to do kind of like a panel. And then he's like, hey, well, how about I just invite some of my friends to, cruise in and kind of talk about art and whatnot. So that's when he invited Chas Bohorquez, John Van Hammersveld, Gary Wong, and Norton Wisdom, which then...
They're all part of the California Locos.
Exactly. Like before that, there wasn't like a name for the group. They weren't a group. They were just friends, right? And somebody, I think it was the video maker at the show, he was like, you guys are like a band. You guys need a name. And then they started like brainstorming, and somebody said the California Locos. Yeah. And then Chas embraced it. They're all embraced it. They're like, yeah, it's not Locos like being crazy, but crazy for life, crazy for art. But anyways, we're talking about the show. The show also kind of celebrates the group expanding. we got a lot of all these new sort of, they weren't really guests, they're like real California Locos because they're all from here as well. That was Shepard Fairey, Robert Williams, Mr. Cartoon, Steven Oriol, Retina, and OG Slick. So it's kind of like the beauty of it is you getting these guys that even though they look like they're street artists, these guys have a very academic background, like the original Locos. And then they're bringing in all those new sort of kids. They're not new, but compared to, like John, for instance, that goes back all the way to the 60s. So it's like putting everything in a blender, it's like, and it's all these different aspects of art, and all these different backgrounds. And it was beautiful. The way you mixed everybody together, it just worked out so well. People were loving it.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I loved going to this show. Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the Red Booth Show. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with Nano from the California Locos. So, okay, cool. You were talking about the mixture of the artists that they're in the California Locos, but also in the recent art show that was epic here in Los Angeles. Yes. And I know you touched on the fact that it's got a bit of a history with some of the guys. Like, you have people that have been around since the 60s or the 70s.
Yes.
Right, John Van Hammersveld. Now, he was the one that did the artist for the Endless Summer poster.
Exactly.
Which is, world
Very
renowned.
iconic, yes.
And, other people like Chaz Borquez. We want to talk about them as well?
The funny thing, this guy's got so much history, right? I mean, Chaz Borquez, he's known to be, he's called like the godfather of the graffiti cholo writing. And then, so he's been around since the 60s and 70s. He goes way back, way before Banksy was even a thing, right? And he was big with this Senor Suerte, which is the lucky skull thing that's got the little fedora and whatnot.
Wow.
That he was tagging around LA, usually on the east side, Highland Park and whatnot. And then on the other side, you have John Van Hammersveld that was doing album covers for the Rolling Stones, Grateful Dead. Then he did that famous poster for the Endless Summer. Gary Wong is also go way back, and so does Norton Wisdom. Touché is kind of like the newer, the younger guy in there. But they all somehow, their path crossing their lives. They're born in different places of LA and whatnot, and they got their different styles. But Norton and Touché, I think they met through like punk rock shows. Gary Wong met John at the Coney Art School. Most of it went to the Coney Art School. I think the only one that didn't go was Dave Touché, but then later on, somehow he got extremely involved with it because he ended up buying the house of the lady that started the school. Right. And through that, he started, putting all these kind of events to promote the school, which then became called Arts, right? And me, I'm like, just met those guys like back in 2015. I was actually working for Dusters California, just did a collaboration for the Endless Summer. So that's when I met John. I ended up meeting Bruce Brown, which is also an amazing guy, the director of the movie. And
tell them a bit about Dusters California.
Oh, yeah. So Dusters, it's a brand that I co-founded back in 2012. I was working for Duino Distribution, which is the house of Rodney Mullen, which is one of the biggest skateboarders of all time, right? And Day One Song. We started with World Industries back in the 80s, which was one of the biggest like skateboard brands, which started the whole kind of movement in the 80s. And I was working for Mark McKee, which was also another great illustrator. Anyways, I was there for a few years, and all the brands there.
Well, by the way, that's where Dave Touché kind of started off, was from skateboarding.
Exactly.
Back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the 70s.
Huge influence, yes.
They're like the pool surfers, like the empty swimming pool guys.
Concrete surfers.
Yeah, like the beginning of that.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So then I, after doing the collaboration with the Endless Summer, I've always worked with different artists. I had a clothing line called Don Dante in the past.
What is it called?
Don Dante.
Don Dante.
Yeah,
cool.
So that's kind of long gone. But the whole idea was really to bring art to garments and fashion and whatnot, right? That didn't work out. So then, inside of the window, I started Dusters California, which the whole idea was to create something that was more for the fun of it. We're lacking the fun of skateboarding because all the brands that we have there are very competitive. So all the brands, you got the pros, they're competing in the contests and whatnot. We're like, we need something just for the fun of skating. Like, remember back in the day when we would just push ourselves, around and just having fun and whatnot. And then Dusters California was born. And the whole idea was to kind of go back to the kind of the 70s where everything started. So when you look at the brand, you're kind of going to see the aesthetics of very vintage, surfers, skaters, in Venice Beach and whatnot. So
that's cool. And I know the skateboarders, which, by the way, my son recently got one of their skateboards, which is really cool. Now it's kind of like a longboard, right? It's not necessarily what is used nowadays for like trick riding and
exactly.
Stuff like that.
The reason why we, since we wanted to do something a little more for recreational, let's call it, we use like bigger wheels. They're soft wheels, so it's easier to kind of ride in different terrains and whatnot. You can still do tricks and all sorts of stuff. I mean, some of the boards we make, they can get up to 50, 60 miles per hour on the downhill, or you can go be right in the pool. Dave Touget board, exactly, he helped me design the entire board from scratch. He was like, I don't want to take your staples, I want to design my own board. I'm like, because he used to design his own things. You can see pictures and boards that every time he brings to the show, was just piece of wood that he would cut out and make the skateboard himself. He's like, yeah, man, I'm totally open to that. Let's do that.
Yeah, of course he would have to. He would have to design his own, right?
Yeah, of course. He's a creative guy. He's got to put creativity into everything he does,
Yeah.
So that's after I was done with Endless Summer, I was trying to get a hold of Chas Bohorquez.
We have to take another break.
Let's take a break.
Sorry, we'll be right back and you can tell the rest of the story.
All right.
Okay. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with Nano from the California Locos. So you were talking about Chas Bohorquez.
Yes. So it was sort of like a mission to get a hold of Chas Bohorquez, right? I tried a few cats in the industry that could get to him, and I was to the point that I was giving up. And this one time I had a meeting with John Van Hammerzel about the whole collaboration with the Endless Summer, and I saw him carrying a book, like a black book, and he said California with the very kind of surfy orange yellow kind of style, very John style, and then Locos written very kind of cholo graffiti style, right? And he looked a lot like Chas' work. And then I was like, well, what is this, John? He's like, oh, this is a little something I'm doing with a group of artists and whatnot. I'm like, let me see that. And as I'm starting going through the book, I'm like, Chas Bohorquez, so he's part of this. He's like, yeah, he's part of our group. And then I go like, hey, listen, I've been after this guy for like the past months and whatnot. How can I get a hold of him? And I would love to do a collaboration with him, right? And then he goes like, well, you got to talk to Dave Touget. Dave Touget is the guy that is kind of orchestrating the whole work with the Locos.
Yeah.
So it was my birthday, May 25th in 2015. He calls me, right? He had my phone. We exchanged a text message. I was like, call me when I have a chance. He calls me out of the blue. I'm with my friends hanging out, and he's like, hey, it's Touget. And I spent 2 hours on the phone with this guy. My friends are like, no, what's up? And then I'm like, it was such a sort of spiritual connection, I must say. Like I never met this guy. He's a spiritual guy
for sure.
He is, yes, completely. And I believe in that 100%, right? So as I'm talking to him about Chas, he started telling me the whole story with the Locos, and I was so mesmerized with the whole thing. I was like, you know what? I can't just do a collaboration with Chas. I got to do this with all you guys. This is too good, Yeah. And since then, we never stopped. I think we talk like every single week on the phone. He's like my boy right now. Like I love that guy. And from that, we got the first collaboration was the first boards. We had 3 shows that I went with them. We did Venice Beach, we did Virginia, we did Manhattan Beach, and then we came out with another board recently where it was out in this latest show in Eastern Projects.
Eastern Projects, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
But,
they've been doing shows for a while. I mean, like every year they've been doing shows and different locations and going to the East Coast and the West Coast, like back and forth.
Yes.
And I think even in Europe, they went to Europe too.
Yes, I think in the beginning, they did stuff in Miami. I know the Chinatown they did a couple times. They were talking about Italy. There's a new book coming out, which I think the people that are producing art from Italy. So
Right.
you never know where the looks are going to go next, right?
Which is really cool because, I mean, they had a book that they put out earlier, which had all of these different artists are featured in their book. It shows all of their artwork.
Yeah.
So it's art pieces that are on the wall, which is great because you get exposure for that kind of art platform.
Yeah.
And then also there's sculptures, there's car art, like art where the car's been all detailed.
Yeah.
And then there's
All
skateboards,
customized, yes.
and there's custom motorcycles. I mean, all of this kind of style, this sort of street style, I guess you could say,
Yes.
is part of what's being shown at these art shows.
It's an urban mix
Yeah.
of things. You know, it's funny because the first time I got in this conversation with Tijia on the phone, he told me about this Spanish writer. His name is Jose Vasconcelos, and he wrote an essay back in 1925, which he talks about the La Raza Cosmica, which means the cosmic race. So this is the guy, the first time I'm talking to him on the phone, and he's explaining the whole thing about that, right? And then he goes like, yeah, so this guy wrote this essay and whatnot, and he talks about pretty much about a new generation, a new race, right? The cosmic race, it's about the fifth race, which in short terms, he talks about like all the different races coming together and becoming one. And that made so much sense because I've always loved working with artists from all over the world. That's what I've been doing with the Dusters California. I got people from London, Japan, Australia, you name it, right? And then when I look at the Locos and he's starting telling me the story of this guy, I'm like, this is you guys. You guys are this fusion. It's like, and I feel like this could be much bigger. The more people we can bring in, like especially the new artists that came in the last show,
right?
It just brings in more power to what we're doing. It becomes a real movement. That's when we did the first collaboration with the Locals. I actually got something to show you here.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, sounds good.
It's a big boy over here. This was our first collaboration, and it came in this vintage boxes.
Really cool, guys.
We actually got a whole video with this boxes. It was amazing. Everybody looked like gangsters, like having guns, but they were actually skateboards. Each one of those guys, you know, Gary Wall, Norton Wisdom, Chas Bohorquez, John Van Hammershout, and Dave Touget, which I want to show you right now.
Very exciting. Okay, good. We have to take a quick break. We'll be right back, and we'll get to see what's in the box. And welcome back to the Red Booth Show. I'm here with Nano Nobrega. How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good. So
Yeah.
he got this out for us so we can see it, which is really exciting. This is one of the skateboards from California, well, from Dusters California.
Yeah, I mean, California Locos and Dusters California.
Right.
That's a real collaboration right there.
That's their logo.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of the different, artwork on here, which is really,
Let's take it out.
really cool.
Let's talk about it.
This is just an example of one of their pieces.
Yeah,
and I think
so-
this is great because, obviously the Red Booth Show supports people that are doing creative things and artistic things. And to me, this is really creative and artistic. And especially the way you guys do it with California Locos is just so amazing.
Yeah.
I definitely recommend people checking out their next show.
I mean, the funny thing is, like, everybody, we've been giving this way for certain people, like Touget. Touget got a bunch of him to friends and family and whatnot, and they're not skating this. They're, like, hanging on the wall. I mean, it literally looks like a piece of artwork, right? I mean,
is. It's beautiful.
I mean, skateboards back in the day in the 70s, they were just like a piece of wood with like just a little logo and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about
It's
art,
all signed and everything.
yeah,
too, which
yeah.
is
This
really
one,
cool.
this is actually the first.
Is this a bottle opener?
This is a bottle opener. Hey, it's
That's
for
pretty
for
funny.
soda.
For Coca-Cola. Yeah. And
So it's all customized, even the top. It definitely shows all the artwork from Dave Touget. In this case, this is the DT model, Dave Touget.
there's different models, obviously.
Yes,
for different
exactly.
people,
Each
right?
one of them got one. So Norton got one, Gary got one, Chas,
Cool.
and then John. So, as you can see, like he's got his like kind of punk rock influence, like the rat that kind of resembles Ed Roth and Rick Griffin artwork, surf and skate, and he was also an avid snowboarder. So, it was amazing. It was just amazing to it was a real fun project to curate all these boards. And the good thing is like, Touché gave me all the freedom in the world. And I was just like, hey, listen, I'm touching your masterpieces and putting these boards. I don't want to mess it out.
You
I want to make
designed
sure.
the board.
I designed all of them.
That's
I designed all of
amazing.
them.
Yeah.
So, and the cool thing about it is that Touché was like, listen, Nano, since the first time I talked to you, I knew you were a loco. So you're gonna do your thing. That's your thing. That's your art. You're gonna do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not gonna show to any of the other locos. So we had this video that we did to promote the launch of the boards, which shows us carrying these cases, which looks like we're carrying like guns and whatnot. So when they pull it out, they're actually skateboards. And it was the first time that all the groups saw. So you should see the faces, like Chas Bohorquez, like he looked like a little kid just looking at his board, pulling out of the box. You could see the smiles and whatnot. So, I mean, it's been a journey, right? I mean, it's been like 3 years with these guys, and we're very excited. This thing is all over the world right now, and it's taking his artwork that could be maybe in somebody else's house. Now it's on the feet of many, many kids out in the world that are probably talking about art. They're talking about the history of it, and they're understanding the styles, the lowbrow, the hot rods and whatnot. So it's educational, it's historical, it's fun, it's beautiful.
It's so beautiful. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I can totally see why it would be all over the world, and I think it's fantastic that you guys are doing this collaboration. There's so much history, and there's so much richness involved with what they're representing from the culture here in Los Angeles.
Everybody was so excited with us that they're like, what's next, Nano? What are we doing next? Yeah. So all I can say is that it doesn't stop here. Not the shows doesn't stop here. The collaborations, the merch that we want to create, to put it out there, and the different canvases that we want to place their artwork on won't stop here. So we're very excited with 2018 and the next years ahead of us.
Cool.
So.
Well, everybody should be following you guys and seeing what's coming up next, the next art shows and stuff. They've done stuff in Venice Beach.
Yeah.
Different really cool locations too.
Venice Beach, Manhattan Beach.
Yeah.
We went all the way to the East Coast to Virginia Beach, and then we did one in Chinatown right now at the Eastern Projects, which was the latest show with all the guests.
They did one in Chinatown before, by the way.
They did. It was one of the first ones.
Yeah. Which was great, and they had live bands playing, live artwork, people painting live, like. Just, it's so cool. Such a great collaboration.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, those guys, like people say they're like a band. And I was just
They are like a band too, because they actually do. I mean, some of these guys are in bands. They play together.
Touché and Norn, Gary Wan. And
there's a little special connection, by the way, to one person from the Rage Against the Machines, which I'm not really supposed to say anything about that, but I'll just drop that little hint there.
Yeah.
But it's
so
cool.
There's so much fun stuff that we can do with these guys, and we're very excited about it. Very excited.
Well, me too. It's wonderful, and I'm very happy to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor. Yeah,
it's been really cool, and I hope everybody goes and checks them out. And we'll keep staying tuned for what's coming up next from the California Locos.
Very nice. Thank you.